So a little bit about myself is my name is East Haradin. I usually start all my classes by assuring people that I did not change my name once I went into Chinese medicine. My name has always been East, and I have a brother named West. True story, comes from the 70s, and that's a whole other discussion, so we'll save that for another time. But anyway, I am a graduate of Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I graduated in 1999 right here in the San Diego campus. And even as an intern, I used aromatherapy a lot in my practice. And my passion for aromatherapy and my desire for the knowledge grew and grew as I went out into private practice. And so it just grew. I did more classes and so forth, more incorporation. In 2010, some of you might know, I started an aromatherapy company, and I've created blends and so forth. So that's a little bit of my background. I've always used aromatherapy, and I know a lot of you do as well. So we're going to talk about that. Now, this is kind of an entry-level class, so we're not going to get into specific details of the chemistry, but we're going to give you a really solid understanding of aromatherapy, how it works, and so forth. So let's talk a little bit. First, I wanted to ask real quick. We're in San Diego. I'm just curious. We have about 18 people. Can you type in real quick where you're all from? And it'd be interesting to see where we're all connecting from. If you could do that real quick, just type in where you are dialing in from. So we have Memphis. Awesome. San Diego. San Diego. Hey, Todd, how can I see my notes? I don't see my notes again. Del Mar. Love Del Mar. Oregon Coast. Beautiful. Oh, perfect. Thanks. San Diego. Some of you, I'm seeing some names that are familiar. That is awesome. Okay, well, hopefully wherever you are, you're comfortable in your pajamas maybe. So I want to say good morning to many of you, and it's going to be good afternoon for some of you on the East Coast. And then we have Nashville. This is incredible. This is great. Okay. So let's start our first poll. The first poll is, do you use aromatherapy? How many of you out there use aromatherapy? So a poll is going to come up, and you get to put in a yes or a no. And we all get to see the percentage of people that use aromatherapy. So this is always interesting. I love doing this. We've got 92%, 7% say no. Maybe some of you aren't sure. Well, let's think about this, okay? And as you might even change your answer, because aromatherapy is one of our major senses, obviously, and my opinion is everybody uses aromatherapy. When you go to the grocery store and you're picking out your soap, something as simple as that, most of us smell the box. We smell our food. Aromatherapy is such a part of our lives. It's almost subconsciously a part of our lives, but we all use aromatherapy. We tend to gravitate towards products that smell good or places that smell good. So in essence, almost all of us use aromatherapy. It's interesting to think of it that way. But after today, you're going to be given tools to use more of like a clinical aromatherapy for healing purposes and so forth. So great. So we have 86.6% of you say you use aromatherapy, 13.3% say you don't. You might have changed your answer after thinking about aromatherapy and how we use it on our everyday, but that's a good poll. So that's also a great demonstration for you to see how we're going to be using polls. We'll be doing that throughout the course, and sometimes you'll be able to type in specific answers. So let's go forward. I want to show you a little bit about what we're going to cover in the next 2 days, and you'll have a chance to type in if there's something on this list that you don't see. So let's go to that. What we're going to cover. Take a look at your screen. We're going to define aromatherapy, talk a little bit about the history. Let's take a little bit of time to talk about essential oils. That's really what makes up aromatherapy. How does it work? How long does it last? We're going to talk about some methods of application, cautions and contraindications. We are going to cover in this class what's considered the top 10 essential oils. So when you got your materials prior to this class, you might have been given a list of 10 essential oils that would be helpful for the class, but absolutely not mandatory. I have some of them with me today. When we go over each of the 10 top essential oils, You can enrich the experience by having that oil with you and smelling it. Now, if you don't have all 10 today, not a problem. Like I said, it's not mandatory. And we're only going to cover about half of them today. So if tonight you want to go out and get some of the oils that we're going to cover tomorrow, you can do so. All right? So those are the top 10 that we're going to talk about. We're going to go through those in detail. Then we're going to go into more applications of how you can incorporate aromatherapy into your practice and into your life. And then we're going to get more specific into TCM and aromatherapy. And even if you're not really into TCM, it'll be applicable because we'll talk about some of the patterns and basics, but we're going to get into the TCM application of aromatherapy. We'll talk about some additional resources for you if this is something that you really are interested in, and then areas for future exploration. As you can see from what we're going to cover, we've got a lot to cover, and we're going to try to cover everything that you would like to cover. So at this time, if there's something that you don't see on this list that you were hoping to cover, please type it in now. We'll make note of it. And if we don't have it in the presentation, we have tonight to see if we can include it or in future presentations. So take a moment. If there's something in here you're like, oh, I was hoping we were going to cover that, please type it in and we'll make a note. I see people typing. That's fantastic. I don't see anything here. We got all kinds of people typing. Quality and brands you love. Yes, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about synthetic versus natural. We'll talk about different quality of essential oils. We'll talk about some of the brands I love. We'll talk about the brands that are out there. So yes, we will talk about that. It's all good. We got some more typing. And we got everybody here. Yay! Welcome. Anybody that came late, welcome. We're just now talking about the things we're going to cover. And what I mentioned in the very, very beginning is that this is going to be as interactive as we can make it. So there's going to be chances for you to answer polls and specific questions and type things in. And we're going to have little breaks and breaks for questions. So that's kind of the format. Okay, will you be covering which acupoints respond better to different essential oils? Yes, we're going to go over some of the most popular TCM, let's say, patterns, and then essential oils that are good for those, and then point combinations that are good for those as well. So yes, you will get that. Let's move on. So keep typing those in, and if there's anything else in there, we'll make sure we cover all that, and we'll respond to that. Oh, we lost somebody. Come back to us. Come back.
They're back.
Okay, they're back. Okay, these are the top 10 essential oils that we listed for you. Peppermint, eucalyptus, ylang-ylang, geranium, lavender, lemon, clary sage, tea tree, Roman chamomile, and rosemary. Now, you can Google top 10 essential oils and you'll get a lot of different answers, many of which overlap. So there's about 7 or 8 that are in almost every top 10 list. This list came from the American Holistic Association of Aromatherapy, and this is what they suggest. So I went with that one. And will you be covering which is perfect? Okay, great. Other important essential oils that I've listed here that I've found in my own personal practice and then just in research: frankincense, rose, orange, sandalwood, grapefruit, and bergamot. So I've listed 6 other ones that I've used quite a bit. I've seen a lot in research, and that we'll also talk about a little bit when we talk about the TCM portion of the class. Speaking about research, one thing I didn't say is in 2010, I came back to Pacific College, where I've been a professor, and I also didn't mention that as well. But I joined the doctoral program, and my research in the doctoral program was incorporating aromatherapy into acupuncture treatments. So I incorporated aromatherapy, combined aromatherapy with acupuncture to treat stress, and I proved the efficacy. What that means is I did a clinical trial, and the group that got aromatherapy with their acupuncture had better results than the acupuncture alone in reducing stress. So that was fantastic. And so through all of that, through the 3.5 years of doing the doctoral, which I did complete last year in April, I did a lot of research on essential oils and their efficacy. And so a lot of that information I'll be sharing with you over the next 2 sessions that we have together. So, little side note there. So again, you don't have to have these essential oils. It would be helpful when we go through there that you can smell them and actually interact and play with them. But these are the top 10 that we'll go over in detail, and then the other 6 are helpful. Okay? Keep making sure, just a reminder, at any time, type in questions as they come up, and we'll keep them for our question period, which will be coming. About every 15 minutes, we'll have a question period, and then we will have a break halfway through today. We're going to get about 20-25 minutes of a break. We'll do the same thing tomorrow. Okay? So, moving right along. What is aromatherapy? What is it? It's powerful. We talked about it. It affects one of your major senses. So we're going to go into this. The aromatherapy, I guess, official definition is right here on the screen. The use of essential oils for healing. The oils come from concentrated extracts of the roots, seeds, leaves, and/or blossoms of plants. Aromatherapy is either inhaled, massaged into the skin, or it's actually even ingested. And that is the practice of aromatherapy. Most of us are more familiar with inhalation of aromatherapy. We'll talk about that and the mechanism of how, once you inhale it, where does it go? And then a lot of us are also familiar with massaging it. So that's a dermal, topical application of aromatherapy. And we'll talk about that. A different mechanism in your body, a different way that it is processed. And then there's a third way that maybe some of you weren't aware of, but many practitioners of aromatherapy deliver it in a capsule, or it's ingested. So those are the 3 ways aromatherapy is delivered: inhaled, dermal or topical, and then ingested. We're going to talk about all those 3. Let's talk a little bit more. Here's some history of aromatherapy. The history goes way back. The history goes so far back, there is mention of aromatherapy in the Bible, right? Frankincense and myrrh. When Jesus was born, they brought aromatherapy. They brought some frankincense and myrrh. So it goes back to the Bible. It goes back to most cultures and their early texts. And it goes back to Egypt. They would find aromatherapy or incense, which is a form of aromatherapy, in the tombs and in the pyramids with the kings. So aromatherapy has a huge history. It dates way back. It's been used in rituals. It was used for healing. Eucalyptus was used for healing for thousands of years. The Aborigines used eucalyptus for healing. And modern day aromatherapy, and the word aromatherapy came from a French scientist who was working with essential oils and had an explosion in his laboratory, and he was badly burned. And the first thing he did is he put his hand into his arm, which was burned, into lavender essential oil, pure lavender essential oil. And he observed such miraculous and quick healing that he devoted his entire life to the aromatherapy and essential oils. And so I have this here on the slides. I go over here, it's all listed here. The ancient practice for most cultures was used for embalming rituals, medicines. But the French scientist's name is René Gattefossé, and he's severely burned, and he's the one who coined the name aromatherapy. It is a French word, actually, aromatherapy. So that's where that came from, and that's around the 1910s. He wrote a book, and that went out, and ever since then, aromatherapy has grown. So 1910 to now. Ayurvedic practices have always used aromatherapy, and that dates way back. And currently, aromatherapy is very popular, but medicinally, it's largely used in countries like Germany and Australia. And we'll talk about later on the schooling that's involved. This can be a 2 to a 4-year university degree in aromatherapy. That's how serious many of the countries take it. And so this is just a little brief history of aromatherapy. Again, that could be another 6-hour conversation just in and of itself, but just giving you some basics of the history there. But before we go on to a little bit more about it, I wanted to give you some examples of aromatherapy and how it's used, because a lot of you said earlier, well, 13% of you said you didn't use aromatherapy. You might not be using aromatherapy, but interestingly enough, aromatherapy is being used on you. A lot of people don't understand this, but casinos actually use aromatherapy. They have been taught and understand that certain scents make people feel a little more risky and spend more money. So geranium and vanilla have been proven to make people lower their inhibitions and spend a little bit more money. And so a lot of times casinos have consulted with corporations and different companies that do aromatherapy consulting. And next time you go into a large casino, smell around, and you might think it's just nice flowers, but it's very specific, intentional based aromatherapy to get you to spend more money and be more risky. So that's interesting. It can be as large as a corporate or a casino, and as small as buying a house. Most realtors, what do when they're listing a house for sale and having an open house? They bake cookies, because research has shown houses that have a nice warm smell, and specifically like cookies, attract more buyers and result in more sales. So it goes from casinos to cookies, and then also to corporations. So several corporations in Japan right now, they pump through their HVAC system a specific blend of 3 essential oils that have been proven through research to increase efficacy, lower errors. The same blends have been proven to increase test scores. So some of these Japanese companies actually pump through their system specific smells at a very low rate, but just enough to affect the productivity of their employees. So aromatherapy is out there. It's being used by a lot of people, and we're all being affected by it. So very powerful stuff. Let's go further. The next slide is essential oils. So we talked a little bit about aromatherapy. We talked about how it's all around us. We talked about how we use it. And now what makes up aromatherapy are these essential oils. So, and those are the top 10 that I gave you. Things like lavender and ylang ylang, those are what are called essential oils that make up aromatherapy. So what are essential oils? They're obtained from the concentrated steam distillates from aromatic plants, expressions from peels and some citrus fruits. So this definition came from Jane Buckle. Jane Buckle is a pioneer. She's a nurse and has her PhD in nursing. And she is on the East Coast, has written several books on how to bring aromatherapy into the clinical setting, specifically hospitals and the nursing profession. Amazing, amazing resource. She has pioneered so much research in the United States on the use of aromatherapy in a clinical setting. She's worth noting, and that's why I have her here. But basically, you can take essential oils, you can make essential oils from petals, from leaves. A lot of us, maybe some of you are familiar with like a geranium plant that you have at your house. Well, you take the stems and the leaves from a geranium, and we're going to go through the process of making essential oils. You distill it down, and the concentrated oils from the plant come out, and that's the essential oils. As mentioned here on the slide, also involved in creating essential oils, we can use stems, we can use citrus peels. I'm just curious, this is not a poll, I just want to see if anybody types this in. There is a crazy movie on Amazon, it's on the free part of Amazon, and I think Netflix. It's called Perfume. Has anybody seen this movie? I'm just curious. I've got people typing. It's disturbing, but it's interesting, and it's got a very all-star cast in it. Thanks, no. Basically, this guy, it talks about the perfume industry, and it's a movie, it's a story, but the guy gets so obsessed, he actually perfumes people. So, anyway, if you're bored, but like I said, I'm warning you, it's a disturbing film. I'm not, somebody says they have seen it. So, Darlene, you know, and Brett has seen it. It's a very interesting movie. Dustin Hoffman's in it. So, okay. Anyway, something to think about if you really get into this. Let's take a second here if there's any questions. If there's any questions just on what we've covered, let's take a moment, answer some of those before we get into how essential oils are made. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, and Jamie is saying that it is a very disturbing plot. Well, think about it. This guy gets so involved with aromatherapy and perfumery, he actually perfumes a person. So, any questions? That's what we're looking for now. I'm going to take the time to answer any questions you might have on just what we've covered. We've covered what we're going to cover, top 10 essential oils, and some of the history. The 3 essential oils used by Japanese corporations. That's a good one. So it is jasmine, it is lavender, and lemon. Those 3 right there. But they're different, I guess you'd say, proportions. So you got to know the specific proportion. You can also find that in Focus. Someone asked me why lemongrass was not included. The only reason why it wasn't included is lemongrass is mentioned in the TCM portion, but it wasn't listed on the top 10 on the AHA, which is the American Holistic Aromatherapy Association. It wasn't listed on our top 10, and it wasn't listed on another 4 or 5 top 10, so I didn't include lemongrass in there. I'd like to know about ingesting essential oils. Ingesting essential oils is called a NEAT application. Is it safe to ingest straight essential oils? If not, isn't the right time question. So we'll talk about ingestion of essential oils. It is safe when done properly. You have to understand how many to take. A lot of people have been doing this, their grandmas may have had them ingest essential oils, oregano oil with hot water when you have phlegm or congestion. That's barefoot medicine right there, kitchen medicine of essential oils being ingested. So that's safe. We can talk about that. Interesting thing. Okay. Any other questions right now? Do we have all 18 still? We have 18. Everyone's here. Okay. Okay. So again, a reminder, keep typing in the questions. And we love these because we are recording this session. And so the questions you have, other people may have today or in the future when they're watching this in the future. So please, any questions, nothing silly. All right, back to our PowerPoint. Also, it just occurred to me, even if you have a comment, I'd like this to be as interactive as we can make this. So if you've heard of something or you have a comment, it doesn't necessarily have to be a question, please type it in. Let's all learn from each other and share our knowledge that way. Oh, here we go. Many doTERRA formulas are recommended for ingestion. Yeah. So when you work with a company like doTERRA or Young Living, they have infinite resources. They're large organizations that do essential oils and provide and sell essential oils, and they have workshops and so forth. And so they get more into the ingestion of essential oils. They'll sell you ingestible forms of essential oils, and they give you more training on how to do that. And I mentioned earlier that in countries like Germany and Australia, essential oil therapy and aromatherapy is so widely used that it is in protocols for healing, and the ingestible forms and protocols are given and taught over the course of 2 to 4 years in certification courses. Yeah, so doTERRA was mentioned. We'll talk about that. And then Young Living, they offer ingestibles. So, yeah. And just like a little note, like I said, if you ever have like a stuffy nose or you're congested, get some oregano oil and drop it into some hot water and take a sip. And I'm telling you, 1 or 2 drops is all you need. Anything more is going to be too much. And test that out. That's something you can try. And then Leslie says, I thought it was still illegal in the U.S. I haven't heard that it's illegal. I think what's illegal is to claim health benefits. 10 from National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. Yeah. Yes, Adam. Top 10. Excuse me. I guess I need some oregano essential oil. Now, interesting, let's think about oregano essential oil. It's aromatic, right? And we learned in TCM that aromatic herbs help break up phlegm. So one of the things that attracted me to aromatherapy is that it's very similar to herbology. When I create blends of essential oils, I do that just like I create blends or formulas in TCM, herbal formulas. I'll have a chief, I'll have envoys. And so, like an example is lavender, in my opinion, is the Gonzalo of aromatherapy. Lavender is one of those essential oils that all of us know, and lavender is such a mild one that it helps all the other essential oils play well together and combine well together. So lavender is one of the key envoys that I've used personally in blending essential oils. So when you're going forward in your practice of using aromatherapy, just think of it very similar to creating herbal formulas. It's very similar, and it's just as fun and just as exciting. So there we go. So these are essential oils. We talked about that. We're going to distill it down from the leaves, the plants, the stems, the peels, and in some cases, and in some crazy movies called perfume, people. How are they made? This is an interesting process. This is interesting. I have a diagram here. Hopefully you can see it. But basically, if you watch your diagram here, you take the material, the plant material, whether it's the leaves or whether it's the petals, and you put it into a pot, and you put water underneath it. This is typical. Some people put water inside of it, but basically you want to steam it up. And the steam that comes out of it is going to contain the essential oils of that material. So it'll come up, and then as you see on the diagram here, it needs to go into a condenser. What we need to do is take that steam and then condense out of the steam. We want to separate, because the steam of the material will have particles of the oil and water particles. So what we need to do is separate the oil and the water. And we do that with a condenser. So if you look at the middle part of the diagram right in front of you, you see a little condenser. You have hot water on top, cold water underneath, and then the coil, and it condenses the steam into now a liquid form, and the liquid will be oil and water. So now we need to separate the oil and water. But oil and water separates itself, right? If you put oil with water, you'll see oil usually goes to the top. So the far end of the diagram shows that after it has been steamed and condensed back into a liquid, then it goes into a separator, and the bottom of it will be the water, and the oil will float to the top, and then you can tap off the oil. Now, this is a very simple diagram. If you get really interested into this and you think, wow, I want to get into it, honestly, you can go on YouTube, and everybody from Bathtub Joe making essential oils to big corporations show how to make essential oils from home or in large corporations. It's interesting, super, super interesting. So more areas for future exploration. But for purposes of today's class, this is a basic model of how essential oils are made. Again, we steam up the material, it comes over, we condense that steam into a liquid again, and then it comes over and we separate out the oil off the top, and then what's left in the bottom is a liquid that has a little bit of the essential oil in it, but it's mostly water. Let me look at my notes here. Okay, we have a poll. We have a poll coming up. So the first poll is, how many of you have heard of the term hydrosol? So here comes a poll. Poll coming at you. Have you heard the term hydrosol? We have 50-50. And we have some people that haven't responded. 7-6. We're still 7. We're still 8-7. Hydrosol. So they can see the results, Todd. Okay, so you guys can all see the results kind of coming in. About half of you have, half of you haven't. And it's going more and more. Well, I just showed you what a hydrosol is. The hydrosol is that portion of water at the very far end of your diagram, the far right side, where the oils float to the top, and what's left over is the water that's been separated that has traces of essential oils in it. That's what a hydrosol is. So when essential oil makers create essential oils, a lot of times they don't want to throw away that water because it still has traces. So they will sell it as a hydrosol. So it's a very, very, very diluted form of the essential oil. And because it's so diluted, it's safe for use on the face, on the skin, ingestion, much more safe that way. But that's what a hydrosol is. So I see. We'll be able to get copies of the slides. Yes. Are you typing back to some of these people? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay. So hopefully that that answers the question about hydrosol. I know for me, early on back in the day, I wasn't so sure about it. I didn't know what a hydrosol was. I thought, what is the hydrosol? So now you guys know. Okay, so that's how it's made. Now it sounds easy, right? A lot of us are thinking, oh wow, maybe I'll make some essential oils. I'll get my plants. But what we need to understand is how much material is needed to produce a tiny, tiny little vial of essential oil. Let's talk about that, because that's where it gets interesting. And that's where things make sense. I've given an example here of the quantities of plant material that's needed to just make a small amount of essential oil. So to boil a large amount of leaves or petals and then distill it and then come down. So here we go. 200 kilograms or 440 pounds. 440 pounds of, let's just say lavender, because that's something most of us know lavender and have experience with lavender. So you'd need 440 pounds of lavender in a big vat to boil that down, and that's going to make you 4 cups of essential oil. And so I give you a little example here of tons of petals and then a little Pyrex dish of 4 cups. So that's for lavender. But for rose oil, you need between 2 and 5 metric tons. It depends on the rose. Some roses are more dense. You need 2 and 5 tons of petals to make the same quantity. So this is why, and this explains for you why some essential oils are more expensive than others. If any of you are like me, you've gone out and you're like, why is this one so expensive? Like rose. Rose is always very expensive, and now you understand because it takes more material to make a small amount. So that's the question. That's answers there. That explains the cost. And in order for manufacturers of essential oils and companies that sell essential oils to make it more affordable, a lot of times what they do with the more expensive essential oils, like rose, like sandalwood, the ones that are exotic and hard to find and rare, they will dilute them in jojoba oil. So when you get your aromatherapy, you should look and see if it's been diluted. For example, this one right here is a jasmine. Jasmine is just like rose, very expensive. It takes a lot of jasmine to make a little tiny bit. So it'll tell you down there a percentage. So this right here is only 10% of pure essential jasmine, and the rest is jojoba oil, which is a carrier oil that's used. So be mindful of this when you're purchasing essential oils, and see that if it has been diluted. It doesn't necessarily dilute its effects. You'll still get the same effects, but with the jojoba oil. But this is to explain to you why sometimes you see 10% or 20%, and usually it's in a jojoba oil that they've distilled it in. So again, just reminding you, because I know I'm kind of talking fast. If you have any questions, type them in, and we'll have another question period, probably in another 5 minutes, and we'll go over some of those questions because we're covering quite a bit of stuff. Okay. So how does aromatherapy work? So we've now gone through the top 10 essential oils. We've talked about the history of aromatherapy, and we've talked about what makes up aromatherapy, essential oils, and 3 methods of application of aromatherapy being inhalation, topical, and then ingestion. And we've talked about how we make essential oils from the materials of plants and some peels and barks as well. Now let's talk about how does it work? How does aromatherapy work? So I have another diagram here that talks about the inhalation and the topical applications of aromatherapy. Aromatherapy are chemical structures, right? And because they rapidly penetrate membranes of cells and travel through the blood and tissues. They travel primarily through the limbic system. So it doesn't matter if you inhale them, whether you ingest them, or whether you put them on topically. Eventually, the chemical components of the essential oils, the aromatherapy, will make its way to the limbic system. And the limbic system sits right behind our nose. So you have your olfactory system here, and then right behind it, in fact, part of your olfactory system ties right into the limbic system. And what is the limbic system? The limbic system is a system. It has it includes like the hypothalamus. It has different structures in our brain that are responsible for different functions. And I list here the two primary functions that are included in the limbic system, the two structures. The hippocampus is where we form our memories. And then in the limbic lobe, it's called the cingulate gyrus, and it regulates the heart rate and blood pressure. So that's why we see efficacy of aromatherapy. For example, lavender lowers blood pressure. So the mechanism of which it goes through the body is you inhale it, it goes through the olfactory system, and then it goes into the limbic system, which is there tied to the hippocampus in that limbic lobe, which then sends off the autonomic nervous system for blood pressure and heart rate. And that's the method for inhalation. Now, when you do topical, you see over here on the right side of your diagram, it goes into your bloodstream, and then it will make its way back up into the limbic system through the bloodstream. And that's the same thing for ingestion. So if you ingest the essential oil, and then after the particles are ingested in the small intestine and then released into the bloodstream, it'll make its way back up to the limbic system and then set off those autonomic nervous system reactions, or if it's in the hippocampus, it's going to go into your memories, long-term memories. So that's why a lot of times you'll smell something, you say, oh, this reminds me of somebody, or it'll trigger a memory, and that is why it's via the limbic system. Now again, we can get more scientific, but for purposes of this class and what we want to cover and how much we want to cover, and we're not going to be able to go deeper. There are other classes that will go deeper into the chemical structures and more into the way that it works into your body, but this is a basic understanding. Again, if you have any questions, please type them in now, because after this slide, we are going to go into a 20-minute break, give you a little stretch break, give you a chance to take a break. So send in any questions. While you're typing your questions, I want to tell you a funny story. It's actually a research article that I read on the powerful effect of aromatherapy in smells. And what they did is they wanted to see how men reacted to different smells and their perception based on smells. So they blindfolded these men and they walked women by the men and had the women smell a certain way and asked the men, based on the smell, would you think this woman is young? Is she old? Is she sexy? Is she attractive? What have you. So they wanted to they tested out some essential oils that they had theories about, one being grapefruit, and one being lavender, and one being vanilla. So when the women wearing vanilla walked by the men, unanimously they all thought the woman was sexy. Regardless of, they were blindfolded. They had no idea what the woman looked like. But they felt like that woman wearing the vanilla was sexy. And then the woman wearing lavender, they always thought older woman, grandmother age, that sort of thing. And then the women wearing grapefruit, all of them thought those women were younger. So after I read this research, of course, like maybe many of you, I ran out and I bought everything grapefruit. I had grapefruit scrubs, grapefruit lotion. Grapefruit was my scent for a while. And so I thought that was an interesting article. And I just out and about, I asked a lot of people things like, what scent do you really like? And a lot of times they'll say, yeah, grapefruit sounds really fresh. And we think about it from Chinese medicine, and what we've learned in our own school here is that grapefruit and orange and citrus is very alive, right? It's a qi expanser, and it's so full of qi, which would make you just kind of logically believe that smelling grapefruit would make you think, oh, young and full of vibrancy and life, because when you open up an orange or a grapefruit, all those sprays come out, and so that's how powerful it is. So, and then vanilla, again, being the sexy one, there are certain professions that use vanilla quite a bit successfully. So, any questions? Let's open this up for questions. Let's see. Yes, you will get a copy of the slides. Darlene got it. Oh, she got it. Okay. Do you only use pure essential oils, or do you still use the ones with jojoba? Both. So Jamie asked, do I use pure? I use pure as much as I can. I make a lot of products, and I resell the products. And so, and this would apply to me making products, but also in my own private practice. These essential oils can get so expensive. Sandalwood, this size, which is only 5 milliliters, so here's a normal one that you buy out and about, this can cost $125 when it's pure. So I do and I don't. I dilute it just for the fact that I wouldn't be able to, it's so expensive. Not only when making certain oils I dilute, but when making products it's too expensive, and then working on patients it can be really expensive. And you gotta be careful because, like I said, just this little vial can be $125. We're gonna talk about the difference between synthetic and natural. And so do I use synthetic essential oils? Never. We'll talk about that. I always use natural essential oils. And then there's also organic or not organic. So I use organic as much as I can. In some cases, organic is almost impossible to get on some essential oils. So again, that's another layer. So we have natural or organic. What else do we have? Questions do not get answered on the fly. Okay, thank you, Todd. Is rose the most expensive? No. No, rose is not one of the most expensive. Rose is up there with sandalwood. Jasmine is more expensive. And the top 10 we're going over here are just like the top 10. But essential oils can get really complicated, and you can have, I guess I would say, for more experienced practitioners, like there's helichrysum, there's all these other essential oils that have long, complicated names that actually get a little bit more expensive. Just like herbs, this is so similar to our practice of herbology. You know, some herbs are really expensive, and it depends on the quality of the herbs and where they're grown. So some essential oils are indigenous to certain areas, and it's better if you get them sourced at their natural place. But then other countries, like China actually, because they see the popularity of essential oils, they start to grow some of the plants, but the soil's not the same, and so the essential oil isn't quite the same. Think about like champagne from Champagne, France. You know, that soil had such a history and so forth. So essential oils are the same way. You have to know your source of where the essential oils come from, and that's very important. And that's why when I sourced out essential oils for my own practice and then for my products, I made sure that my source of essential oils came from the origin of the location and or the highest quality, and organic when possible, and absolutely natural. So rose is not the most expensive. And then Shauna loves rose. Yeah, I love rose too. But you know what's funny is that some people don't like rose. Some people don't like lavender, and usually it's tied to a memory. Maybe their grandmother was mean, or maybe every time they went to their grandmother's house who wore rose perfume or lavender, it felt like torture. So a lot of times people have negative associations with essential oils. And so think about this, because they're smelling it. And we have scientifically proven the efficacy of certain essential oils on the body. It goes into the mind, and once it goes into the brain, it can affect things like heart rate and blood pressure. However, what they also found is that if somebody has a negative emotional association with that essential oil, their brain will counteract the positive benefits. So if somebody has a negative association to lavender, their brain can stop the process, which would otherwise be natural, in their body to lower their blood pressure. It might even, in fact, bring up their blood pressure. So with that in mind, many modern aromatherapists started to blend essential oils together so that if there is that kind of negative reaction, there's another oil in there to kind of grab the person's, the smell, the attention of that person from a olfactory perspective. so that they're just not only smelling the lavender. Maybe they smell the lavender with a little geranium and they don't have a negative association with the geranium. So then their body allows the lavender to come in through the helper of geranium. So these are good questions. Many people can use pure essential oils directly on their skin and feel great, but since some people can't tolerate pure essential oils directly applied to the skin, so do you always use a carrier oil in your patients? We will talk about, after our break, contraindications and cautions. So the question was about topical direct application. Most people say it's a no-no. No direct skin, because unless it's lavender, because it can burn your skin. Some people believe that if a essential oil is absolutely pure, 100% with no adulterations and no additives, that it can be put on the skin. But the way I've been trained and what I've seen in research is that you should be very careful with direct application on the skin. And we'll talk about that in cautions and contraindications. We will talk about that. What's the name of your line? I do have a website. They're called Gem Elixirs, and it's just www.gemelixirs.com. Oh, and Jamie wrote that in. Thank you. And Jamie said they're amazing. Thank you. Which oil is best for calm and relaxation? We will talk about that. Lavender is calm and relaxation. That's easy. You can go and get it. It's in all sorts of things. So we will talk about these. We will talk about these. And she says, okay. We still have everybody with us. This is awesome. This is great. So I'm looking at the time, and I think we have time, and especially since your questions are kind of taking us there, let's go a little further before our break, and we'll answer some of these questions right away. So hopefully I've answered the questions about, is rose the most expensive? It's not. There's other more complex essential oils that are out there that are more expensive, and we compared essential oils to herbs, very similar, right? Some ginseng is cheap and some ginseng is more expensive. It depends on how the age of it and where it was harvested. So the same thing applies to essential oils. Okay, back to our slides, which you'll all get a copy of. Okay, so that's how aromatherapy works. Limbic system, remember that. And your patients will ask you this. People will ask you, like, how does this work? And explaining to them that it goes to the limbic system, which is tied to your memories and your emotion. That's how it works and why it's so powerful. There we go. How long does aromatherapy last? Now, when you inhale it, it's almost instant, right? Most of us smell it and it's instant and it lasts there. It's going to last in your body 8 to 12 hours. We're going to talk about that. But what about when we massage it into our skin or ingest it? So let's look at that. When you massage aromatherapy into the body, it can take up to 30 minutes to actually have an effect on the body, right? It'll last in the body between 8 to 12 hours. It just depends on your body. If you have a very toxic body, then it might last longer. It depends on the metabolism, how fast the person's metabolism, will it metabolize out quickly. But the general rule of thumb has been 8 to 12 hours is how long it will last. Now, a shelf life of aromatherapy is up to 2 years, depending on storage. So this is a great time for a poll. I wanted to ask a poll of everybody here. Do you leave the lid off of your aromatherapy? Either your essential oil or any aromatherapy product that you have, do you leave the lid off of it? Ooh, 90%. People are changing their mind. Some people say yes, some people say no. So this is good. We have 13 yes, or 93% yes, and about 6 or 7% no. It's good. We should be 100%. When you leave the lid off of aromatherapy, it will dilute it and it breaks it down. It chemically breaks down the essential oil because it's a chemical, and so then it will lose its life. And I know I've been a supervisor in the clinic here for years, so I've watched a lot of students practice, and I'll walk in their room and they'll have the aromatherapy top off, and I think, oh, that aromatherapy is just losing its life. Even things like Posemon, I will see, which is aromatic. I will see the lid off of a Posemon, which is a liniment. For those of you that don't know Posemon, I'm assuming everybody does. But it's a aromatic liniment, and I've seen the lid off of a Posemon for days, and I think, well, that Posemon's gone. It won't have the aromatic properties. So the important thing is keep the lid on it, because if you leave something like this with the lid off for a week, I would think it would be so ineffective. I don't know the exact ratio of that, but research has proven it, that they're not as effective. And then obviously, if you leave it off, you can just do your own test. Just smell it after a while and you won't smell it anymore. So keep lids on things like that. We talk about, and I show you right here, 3 types of containers that essential oils are traditionally placed in. And some of you might put essential oils in white glass, but things that break down essential oils in the chemistry and components, the elements that make up, the compounds that make up essential oils, sunlight and air. And so if you look down here, I give you examples of the brown bottle that will stop UV light from coming in, and also keeping it sealed. And notice that the 3 that I show you here, all 3 are glass. So it's very, very important that you keep essential oils in glass, and even essential oil products in glass. And the reason is plastic breathes. So air is still coming through plastic and affecting your essential oils. And then plastic will interact with the chemistry of the essential oils. Some essential oils will actually melt and start to burn away the plastic, so your plastic will start to get broken down. And then what you're going to have is some of the plastic in your essential oils. So glass is number 1, and make sure it seals. And then you want to have a color of glass that will stop UV rays from penetrating. So brown was used for a long time, and then over the years they found that blue cut out the UV rays more effectively. So a lot of people went to blue glass, or what's called cobalt glass. This is a mined mineral. It's almost like a gemstone itself. But this will stop more and more of the UV rays from coming in. So blue, better. Some believe blue is better. So for years, these 2 were on the market. But a group out of the Czech Republic came out with violet glass. And that's what you see here. It looks black, but it's not. It's actually violet. If we hold it up to the light, you can see it through it. It's very hard to see through it, and it's got like a purple hue, but it's violet glass coming out of the Czech Republic. It's the newest out in the market of glass. And this will save your essential oils and the aromatherapy in it for substantially longer. So an idea is a brown bottle will keep it good for up to about 2 years. The blue bottle, 2.5, 3 possibly. Whereas they're claiming with the violet bottle, they claim indefinitely. I think a safe assumption with the violet bottle is up to 5, maybe 6 years. You can hold essential oils safely, and they will be broken down in the violet bottles. So I show you 3 here, and then I brought you 3 here. Any questions you have on these, please send them in. But again, this is out of the Czech Republic. It's fairly new, the violet glass, hard to get. You can buy these blue bottles anywhere. Any natural food store sell these blue bottles where you can start to make your own blends. And we'll talk about that towards the end of how you can use aromatherapy more and how you can make your own products. And I think they also sell these brown bottles. They sell them with stoppers on them, spray bottle tops with droppers. So, and you can also go online. There's plenty of resources online to buy these. eBay probably you can buy any of these. The violet glass, though, I'm pretty sure you probably have to buy it from the company. It's called Miron, M-I-R-O-N. And because they kind of cornered the market, they know it. so they're not very responsive. But they're great. They're a great company, and they have great products. So hopefully that answers your questions about how long it lasts in the body, between 8 to 12 hours, and how long it takes to kind of get into the body. When you inhale it, it's pretty much instant. When you massage it, it takes about 30 minutes to actually run through your bloodstream and get up to the limbic system and start the process. And then when you ingest it, that process can take hours before you actually see the results from that. All right. Any more questions? We've covered a lot. Let me see what we have here.